Before we get started, I wanted to highlight something about the treasures Lugh sends the sons of Turians to go fetch. More in-depth analysis will go into behind-the-scenes episodes and a recap I'm considering at the end of the season. But the big takeaway is the Irish writers of this story, that is, medieval Christian monks, borrowed from what was legitimate material to them: Mediterranean mythology and history. These locations and items rely on knowledge of antiquity, be it Greco-Roman sources or biblical know-how. Only monks would have known this material, and that material grants weight to the story for this literate class who needed that legitimacy. After all, the monks who wrote this stuff down had a very negative opinion of pagan sources from the local yokels they preached to. But because of time and tide, it's almost impossible to distinguish between what the Irish believed and what the monks said they believe. Of the 7 treasures in task, only the final 2 seem to be separate from the Mediterranean connection, but more on that later. Anyway, enough of that. Previously on Goddessy. Lugh, destined to unite the Tuatha De Danann and lead them to freedom, has introduced himself to the royal court. Landing a masterstroke against his father's murderers, the sons of Turian, they are bound by oath to retrieve 7 items from across the world for Lugh as repayment for killing his father. Yet despite this, Lugh has alienated key figures of the children of Danu and may yet face consequences he cannot fathom. Welcome to Goddessy. Episode 9. The Sea of Storms. He strummed his hand on the table, pronouncing his boredom for all. It had been 5 days since the Cayley, 5 days of storms. Part of Lugh wondered if that had been the rage of Turian, the master of storms. His rage was unfathomably deep, as was the power of any storm, even before the small huts of the Tuatha De Danann, to the point it was almost impossible to say that Turian truly controlled them, but rather that he summoned them with his rage. Powerful as he was, Turian was overall honorable, so everyone told him. Lugh did not see it. As far as he was concerned, Turian was an object of his own rage, perhaps even more so than Balor of the Evil Eye. Balor was a distant evil to him. Turian, or at least his sons on his orders, had done him an injustice. Sitting across from Turian and his 3 sons, Lugh kept quiet. The 4 said nothing themselves. Turian looking furious even at sitting there, while his 3 sons carried apprehension on their shoulders. Lugh almost pitied them for the task the Morrigan had set upon them. It was more than he had possibly imagined. Beside him sat his grandfather, Dian Set. The last few days had not been informative regarding the man. His interactions with him had been at silent dinners, and that alone. Dian Set was a god of work, always tinkering in his laboratory and gardens, where he grew herbs for his healing concoctions, made devices and new techniques to help his surgeries. He seemed unconcerned with his appearance at work, coming to dinner smeared with oils and balms, yet his etiquette was cold, precise, distant, and exact. His aunts and uncles, by comparison, were warm and fun. He had a particular fondness for his Aunt Ehrmund, whose mastery of herbalism was matched only by her intentionally terrible jokes, and his uncle Mick. His uncle was warm and inviting, asking Lugh many questions and giving him every consideration, while revealing a different kind of way to look at the Tuatha De Danann. Instead of clans, they were divided into potential skills and uses, and innovation should be rewarded over tradition, in his opinion. Tradition, it seemed, had fractured the children of Danu. Though Lugh had inquired more of that, he did not receive an answer as to what it meant. His grandfather put a stop to that conversation and forbade any further discussion of it. 5 days of learning the family dynamics of the clan of Dian Set had left him antsy, for it was the first time since his arrival back to Ireland that he had any time to rest, to reflect, to get to know his new skin. He was an adult by the standard of his people, and thus could hold his own in the court of his people, yet why was his grandfather here at all? Could he not handle this? They found themselves in a longhouse, surrounded by a series of huts. A ditch dug around the small settlement, and on the eastern side was moored a boat, the banner of Turian acting as its sail. The waves crashed outside, and Lugh felt at home, reminded of Tir na Og. The eastern sky, headed towards Albion, was bright and blue, and soon the sons of Turian would be leaving in that direction. As soon as the king arrived, and mediated the terms, that is. The longhouse had to it 2 rooms. The long room, where 3 tables made an almost rectangle shape, missing one side by the wide front doors, which stood now open. The table in the back was the smallest of the 3 and was elevated, belonging to the king. Only his tall chair sat there, now empty. Another room was behind, presumably where King Brez was, for the entirety of the exterior of the building was surrounded in guards wearing the same standard Lugh had seen at Tara. He pulled his hand off the table and met Tyrion's eyes. He wore the same impatience Lugh wore, and something in his gaze called back to when his uncle Mick had said something about tradition fracturing their people. The door opened. Everyone stood up in instinct. Through the opening passed the golden-red visage of King Brez. His facial hair was impeccable, a mustache that hung down past his perfectly sculpted chin. Blue eyes peeked out behind perfectly braided blonde hair, atop which sat a crown of bronze. He alone had a weapon, a sword at his side, and today wore a tunic of purple with a white cloak. 2 guards followed after him, shutting the door behind them. Lugh spied someone in the room there, someone he did not recognize, dressed in black. I do apologize for my lateness. I was consulting some of my legal scholars regarding this situation, and well met, one and all. I know we had this scheduled for just before midday, but that matters little now. Here we are. You'll excuse me for eating. He nodded to the guards at the front of the door, who left. A moment later they returned, a whole pig on a spit brought forth. The smell was exhilarating, yet only 1 plate had been produced. Brez pulled back his tunic sleeves and began to carve the pig for himself. Lugh felt his grandfather tense at this, and saw Tyrion do the same. The sons of Tyrion wore their hunger on their already thin faces. Lugh felt much the same, for he had not eaten save bread this morning. Everyone sat down, almost out of dejection, Lugh thought. Now let me see if I understand this properly. Kian fathered a son at some point and hid him among the Firbolg, and now he claims the right to an Erik because the sons of Tyrion have been proven to have slain Kian. Lugh nodded. His grandfather spoke. Your wife confirmed the blood was Kian's, and the Morrigan confirmed the rest. Brez nodded. She would know, I suppose. And then she gave 7 items that would equal what Lugh has lost? That seems excessive. Tyrion nodded. I thought so as well. She gave the price, and we must follow it. Brez shrugged. Must we? There was a frozen tension then, the 3 sons of Tyrion seeing the way out. Tyrion, for his part, was horrified at the suggestion, his mouth open, an expression he shared with Theon set. Lugh furrowed his brow, forgetting his place. Is it not the way of our people to obey the Morrigan? Is she not a manifestation of the sovereign queens of the island? Brez shrugged again, eating part of the flank. Such an old tradition. My oath is to Eru and her sisters, not to Maka and hers. But if the parties agree, then who am I to argue? Brez looked Lugh over, seeming to realize something. I've seen you before, in my court. Lugh smiled. You must be mistaken. I am often mistaken for my father or my uncles. He shot a glance at Tyrion. The old man did not correct him. Unlikely. Your father and uncles have never paid homage at my court. Rude, I thought, but I have little use for homeless beggars who wander the countryside. Let those of substance present themselves to my court. Will you, Lugh, son of Kian? Lugh smiled. If I find substance that might serve you, then yes. Brez shrugged. Likely not. But if you have skills, there are many roles in my court that are not filled. Lugh bit his tongue. The reason those roles had not been filled is because no one would fill them. Brez was proving himself every bit the cur others had told him he was. He was glad that Bridget was not here for this. Brez continued. So what terms do I need to confirm? Are we confirmed about length of the time, the nature of some legal wording? I am not the Dagda, thankfully. No offense, Theon said. His grandfather's smile was thin. None taken, though you will find my brother Angus more clever at wordplay than my father. Very true, and so handsome, too. How is he settling into Bruna Boyne? Theon Set shook his head. I have not spoken to my brother in earnest since he tricked our father out of Bruna Boyne. Such a shame to see a family so divided. But I suppose your father isn't here to bridge that gap, is he? For the best, I assure you. His assistance to the Fomorians is much appreciated, and helps keep the peace. They were getting off topic again. Brez was not particularly focused monarch. Lugh broke in. I have no issue with the length of time, though I should think it should take less than a year if the sons of Tyrion are able sailors. Brian scoffed. I know my way better around cells than you around that famous blade of yours, Lugh. Brez perked up, wiping his mouth on his sleeve. Oh, that's right, you have the sword of Manana MacLear, don't you? Is that it, the one with the jeweled hilt at the edge of the hall? He nodded to where all the weapons were being kept. Lugh smiled but did not respond to him. He continued. If the 7 tasks are done within a year, I should have no issue with anything else. We will have an accord. What was it that the Queen said? We shall quarrel no more? Tyrion chuckled. You would like that, I should think. But your tasks are impossible. The first 6, improbable on their own. Yet you are not of our people. Dian Set has not told you who Mokin is. Has he? What the significance of yelling from that hill is? Dian Set did not answer, so Lugh had to. No, he has not. Who is Mokin? Tyrion grinned. Brez listened, eating loudly. Before our people left Lochland, we lived in the 4 cities. At Gorias, your great-grandfather, the Dagda, was our chief then. He and the Morrigan united us and led us from there, yet at that time we had 4 treasures. The Stone of Fall you must have heard of, as well as the Dagda's Horn of Plenty. The Sword of Light was the 3rd. Lugh noted apprehension on Tyrion's face. The sword belonged to Nawada. Brez did not react, but fear of his reaction was enough to have stopped Tyrion. The man continued. Yet, you will note we never speak of the 4th, the Spear of Asal. Do you know why? At last, the name made sense. Asal was not a place, but a thing. The Morrigan had been directing him towards this. I do not, Tyrion. You needn't keep asking me. Assume I know nothing. Tyrion had a snide remark at that, but did not give it. The Dagda tempted fate by taunting Mokin, one of the masters of Gorias. You see, he and his clan, a wide range of sons and daughters, all masters of war, reside near a hill outside the city. To give a cry there is to summon them, and those who cry without reason are slain. You see, fools like the Dagda saw this as a game, so many would attempt to give a yell and flee. None before him had survived, but the Dagda was young then, and so emboldened by his wits, he thought he could try. He carried with him his horn and the spear, then gave a mighty yell. For a man his size, he fled as fast as he could, but as he neared the gates of Gorias, he dropped both items. How could he get them both back? So, for his people, who could not farm, he decided to retrieve the Horn of Plenty. The Spear of Asal was lost, and now Mokin has the most powerful spear ever made. Lugh supposed he should have felt insulted for the many quips against the Dagda, but he felt none. His great-grandfather had acted foolishly, though no less foolish than any other youth, Tyrion's own sons included. What does the spear do? Tyrion grinned more. It guarantees victory. It can be thrown with a word instead of with a hand, and then summoned back with another word. As you can see, a mighty artifact that would make our wars here in Ireland much simpler. Yet we lack it. So when the Morrigan sends my sons to die at the hill of Mokin, yelling like fools, it begs the question, why? Does she wish to see them rectify the Dagda's mistake at the expense of my own family? Lugh furrowed his brow. Would it not be to the benefit of our people? Tyrion grew nervous there, realizing with Brez sitting there, listening, there was a line to not cross, and they threatened to fall right over it, quarreling. Lugh had one thing to his advantage there. He did not care. It would, but consider this, son of Cian. As much as I want the spear for my sons, I would not risk their lives. I value them above all things. I would not go against the will of the Morrigan and have instructed my sons accordingly. They are to yell, then flee into the city and return home with your 6 trinkets. The Morrigan did not mention Asal, did she? Thus, it is of no concern of mine. Whatever victories we gain, it will be by our own hand. Lugh shook his head. The spear in hand would guarantee victory. You do not walk into a battle unprepared, Tyrion. You know that, surely. Brez laughed. Cheeky boy, aren't you? I've heard enough. Let's get these 3 on their way so I can get back to Tara. Tyrion held up a hand. Old King Brez, I have a request of Lugh. Lugh felt his stomach churn. Every night since the Cayley he saw her face again, the Phantom Queen telling him that he had a gish placed upon him. Tyrion had thought about this. He could tell. My son should be given the best transportation to retrieve these items. Lugh, son of Cian, your foster father, Manannan MacLear, has many such ways. I request that you lend us use of Inbar, Manannan's horse. He could not contain himself. For all his fear, Lugh laughed. You must think me a fool, Tyrion, to part with the horse. No, Inbar is mine, gifted by Manannan. Tyrion smiled, and Lugh realized what he had done. What was Tyrion about to ask for? Whatever it was, the gish was clear. Lugh must give it to him. Manannan MacLear's ship, then? The speed by which it moves is without equal. I request Manannan's ship. Lugh stared at Tyrion. Was that even possible? He could not say no, but was he asking him the impossible? I will request it of him, Tyrion, for you. Tyrion smiled, almost proud of himself. He, like his sons, clearly were surprised it had worked. Yes, that's nice, fairies and all. Get you away, and best of luck. You will need it. Tyrion and his sons rose then, bowed to Brez, and headed out. Dee and Set did the same, and Lugh felt compelled to follow suit. He glared down at Brez, who stared back as he ate a pig too large for him, his mouth filthy. They retrieved their weapons, and were gone. Out the door, Dee and Set held his grandson back. See them off. I will not, but I will see you at home. I have business to attend to. Watch your tongue and temper while out there, boy, unless you wish not to come home. I was getting used to having a grandson around. Dee and Set made for his horse, beside Inbar, and rode off. Lugh watched him go, then went to the dock. Lugh joined the sons of Tyrion on the beach, keeping his distance. There was a group of bannermen who had come, a few of whom were going with the brothers on their voyage, and they prepared the ship. Upon Lugh's arrival, all attention turned to him. Tyrion, emerging from the ship with gear, yelled down, Fulfill your oath, Oath Keeper! Bring us the ship of Manannan MacLear. How could he? He had never conjured anything so large. Yet with his connection to Tir na Nog, he could do it. He knew the ways. Lugh strode out onto the beach, and feeling the waters lapping against his legs, began to breathe in rhythm with the waves. His foster father was the Lord of the Sea, and so it was as close as he could get to any messenger. Not only that, but there might be Undana She of the water, listening to him, surely. I, Lugh, son of Cian, request the ship of Manannan MacLear to see a task completed that will see my destiny fulfilled. Lugh held up his arm, outstretched to the horizon, and felt something leave him, spreading out into the sea like a wave. At first, nothing happened. Lugh heard the laughter of the bannermen of the sons of Tyrion taunting him. They understood little about the workings of magic, he knew, but he felt that laughter in his own stomach, that he would have been a fool to even try. Until a mist rolled in from the south, appearing suddenly, moving quickly. He was sure he had failed. Yet there it was, and out of the mist appeared a ship, in the shape of the mist, until it cleared the fog, which receded. The ship was tall, perfectly crafted of light wood, and had upon it a banner for a sail, bearing 3 legs stretching from a central point, as if all connected. A strange symbol, it was the symbol of his foster father, Manannan MacLear. The ship beached itself beside Lugh, and Lugh patted its bow, shaped like a serpent. I suppose a year would be a reasonable time, if you're incompetent. So I'll give you a year to prove me wrong, sons of Tyrion. No harm shall come to this ship lest you face the wrath of Manannan, and me, by extension. Lugh waded out of the water, hand on his blade. The 3 sons of Tyrion came closer. Brian glared at him, while Ikar and Ikarba seemed nervous. Tyrion kept his distance, still working to unload the ship, to reload it into Manannan's ship. Lugh had a moment. I wish you only the best of luck, sons of Tyrion. Your success will bring our people great treasure that we can use against the Fomorians. And when you return, I will have united our people. And you will be heroes. He felt the magic working, and his eyes lit up, ever so subtly, as he caught the glance of all 3. He felt the power of his charm upon them, enchanting them. Bring this spear of Assault, or do not return at all. With that treasure in hand, Ireland will be ours. They seemed dazed, the sons of Tyrion. Somewhere in the distance, Lugh spied a raven. Yes, said Brian. We will, said Ikar. Return with it or die, repeated Ikarva. Good, said Lugh, letting the magic go. I won't keep you any longer. Go forth. He walked past them, his legs drying slowly as he walked from the beach and made for Inbod. As he did, he noted the people who had been in this village were nowhere to be seen, neither helping the sons of Turian nor going about their daily lives. He caught sight of the guards, moving through the walkways, and as he trotted further from the longhouse, they seemed to move faster. There was something off about them. Though they wore the king's colors, the souls that wore the armor did so awkwardly, moving strangely, their bodies dirty. These were not guards, he realized. Drawing Fragarak, he stopped, looking around for a clear sign of one of the guards. There was none suddenly, but then before him appeared a figure in black, the one he had seen in the longhouse. He was old, his gray hair emerging from the hood he wore over his head, and at his side was a spear. He blocked Lugh's path. Lugh would remove him. He pointed his blade at the man and spurred Inbod onward. He did not see the rope in time. Summoned as if out of the ether, they appeared at Inbod's feet and above the horse's head, tripping the horse and knocking Lugh from the back of the horse, straight onto the ground. Fragarak left his hand and breath left his lungs. Stunned, Lugh could scarcely move before the guards were upon him. They beat him, with clubs that knocked him senseless until he could only hear ringing. The last thing he saw was the figure in black's teeth, terrible yellow things, before the bag went over his head and consciousness left him. Goddessy is written, researched, and produced by Greg Wright. Additional editing and writing by Sidney Yeager, who can be summoned by C. Music by Scott Buckley, whose amazing Creative Commons music can be found at www.scottbuckley.com.au. Want to support the show? Check us out over on Patreon. Every little bit helps. I hear fairies will clean your kitchen if you do. Want to send water spirits to assault me? Send a message warning me first on social media at the Goddessy Podcast. All those links are in the show notes below. Like us, follow us, screech about my bad Gaelic, yell from hilltops. And if you like the show, leave us a review on iTunes, Stitcher, or wherever fine podcasts are sold. For free. Actually, is there a place that sells podcasts? If there is, let me know that too, because... Anyway, Goddessy is back next week. See you then. Want to support the show? Anything helps. Be sure to like this video and subscribe to our YouTube channel to see more seasons of Goddessy. Want to support the show further? Check us out on Patreon and Ko-fi for blogs, articles, and general musings. We appreciate you.